And this Erik Karlsson contractual narrative has been going on for a few weeks since Drew Doughty made the comments to Craig Cousins, The Athletic, and then Erik Karlsson said, you know, when I'm a free agent, just so you know, I'm getting what I'm worth, which seemed to piss a lot of people off. We'll get to that in a second. So that led into the discussion on Hockey Night in Canada that we just played back for you. It was fascinating, and it's got a lot of people talking. The other thing we'd like to throw into the mix, Sens fans, is that our own Arash Madani in San Jose earlier on Saturday, before that aired, got to have a conversation with Erik Karlsson one-on-one, which he posted in an article on sportsnet.ca. For those who haven't seen it, this is what Erik Karlsson told our own Arash Madani regarding his future. Quote, "I love it here in Ottawa. It's never, ever crossed my mind that I ever want to leave here or go somewhere else. That's not something I've ever considered. I've invested my entire career into this organization. They've given me everything that I feel like I need to succeed. I think we're moving in the right direction. This is the place I want to win with. I want to win in Ottawa. That's where I'll always be." Again, Arash Madani got those quotes Saturday afternoon before the conversation we just ran back to you on Hockey Night in Canada. We should also tell you, Stephen, before I give it to you on this, another layer to this is Elliotte Friedman in his 31 Thoughts today on sportsnet.ca did cite the fact that he learned there was a rather tense conversation between Sens executives and Erik Karlsson after he made those comments in Brooklyn about market value. They're trying to smooth it out. Obviously, the quotes that Arash got, Erik Karlsson is going down that road. But right now, there's a lot of logs on this fire here, Steve. Where do you want to go first?
Well, look, I think Erik Karlsson's telling the truth. I think he would love to win in Ottawa. I think his goal would be to win in Ottawa. I think he's become Erik Karlsson in Ottawa. All kinds of, and they were within a goal of being in the Stanley Cup Finals last year. So, there's, you know, success isn't, you know, a distant memory. It's last spring, but look, there's a bunch of realities here. The stability of the franchise, the stability of the ownership of the franchise, whether or not they get an arena deal, all of those things are going to factor into whether that team can spend to the cap. So whether or not you can sign Erik Karlsson, you can pay Erik Karlsson the going rate. You can pay him more than any other team can, at least in term. But if you can't afford to put a winning team around Erik Karlsson, that's not necessarily in your interest if you're running the Senators. It's not necessarily in Erik Karlsson's interest to stay there if he has the option. So you can say, so all of this stuff, you know, a lot of this stuff kind of boils down to lip service to me. And we've heard it before. Players don't want to leave places, especially they're, you know, the only professional team where they've played, where they've found success. But circumstances dictate, right? It's not about what you want sometimes. It's kind of looking around and saying, you know what, it's not going to happen here. Yeah. Or it's the owners looking and saying, look, you know what, we can't build a team around you at that rate, so we're going to have to move you. Where would you allow us to move you? You know, those are the market realities I think we're going to face with Erik Karlsson. Plus, there's still the question, Sid. Erik Karlsson, a year ago we were talking about, or a few months ago we were talking about as maybe the greatest hockey player in the world, you know, or 1B or 1C at worst.
He has a point in his last 12 games.
He doesn't look like that right now. So until he looks like Erik Karlsson, I'm not even sure what we're talking about.
It's interesting in that as well. I mean, this is not a cap team in the Sens. We know Eugene Melnyk a little bit. They're not in a market where he's going to spend at the cap. It's been at $75 million for a few years. We learned that last week at the Board of Governors. It's going up to anywhere from $78 to $82 million. That window alone opens the door to every other team in the league, maybe not Arizona, but every other team in the league to go all in on that extra contract that maybe they didn't have the flexibility to last year or the year before. I think that is also a bit of bad news in this. And I'll say this. The NHL 100 Classic is this Saturday. Tim and I are going to be there live Thursday and Friday. It's a whole to-do. Habs and Sens will play, marking the 100th anniversary of the National Hockey League. The Sens have one win in their last 12 games. They're in Buffalo tomorrow night. Watch the mood if they lose that one tomorrow night. The Sabres suck. They're last in the East. Watch the mood in Ottawa later this week. If they lose that game and this story continues to percolate, because this is not the story you want. I know people don't care about PR, but the league have been looking at this week for a long time in Ottawa. If this becomes a dominant story, people are not going to be happy. And I know it just kind of happened and no one expected it to take place this way, but that's kind of where we're at. And this has the potential to hijack the 100th anniversary this weekend in Ottawa if it doesn't cool down, because everything I'm seeing from Friedge, I mean, it's just getting hotter and hotter every time it comes out. and I trust his sources, obviously, and I just don't see it slowing down here.
No, I don't either, Sid. But the other thing that's true, and Elliott said it in that clip, it's hard to win a trade like that. So if you get forced to make that trade, essentially if you feel you have no choice, which could be the scenario here, it's hard to come out of a trade like that. Trading a commodity, again, let's assume he bounces back and starts to look like himself for the first time since the surgery. You can't get Erik Karlsson back for Erik Karlsson. You can't.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. So that's an awful deal to have to make for a franchise. And sometimes those kind of, I'm not going to get crazy here, but it's like those are franchise killers,
yeah.
right? They rip the heart out of your fan base.
Listen, Kyle Turris was huge for them in that spring run. He was huge for them in the community. They traded him like that when they didn't think they can get the deal they wanted. I have no doubt they would do the same with Erik Karlsson, but time will tell.